Good morning, Derryfield, and welcome back. This morning, Dr. Carter has asked me to speak about forming relationships with teachers, living in the moment, and having a joy for learning. When I was 5 or 6 years old, much to my mother's dislike and my persistence, half of our basement was dedicated to my very elaborate classroom of American Girl dolls. Each doll had a wooden desk, and it had a name tag, one of those fancy ones that my grandmother probably bought from some online teacher store. I had a whiteboard and a chalkboard. Oh, and remember those How to Tell Time posters from first grade? Yeah, I had one of those too. My classroom and what I taught my imaginary students usually mirrored what I was learning in school. In fact, the way I planned my lessons, yes, I had a plan book too, was always the same as my teachers. I wanted to be prepared to teach my imaginary students. This imaginative relationship with my dolls became a reality when I came to Derryfield in the 6th grade. Although the roles were reversed and I was the student, this caring relationship with my teachers remained the same. Mrs. Whitmore was the first teacher at Derryfield that I really connected with because her love for students and her care was so clear. On rainy days during recess, Mrs. Whitmore's door was always open for my friends and I to talk about life. She always had a supply of good advice and Hannaford Zoo cookies to get us through our problems. Even in 8th grade, when she wasn't my teacher, Mrs. Whitmore was willing to help me understand the grammar topics that I was learning. No matter how long it took, and sometimes it took a while, Mrs. Whitmore was there because she wanted to see me succeed. For the first time, I felt like my teacher cared about me as a person and a student. Mrs. Whitmore's true investment set the tone for the rest of my Derryfield experience. In the upper school, when the stakes are higher and the courses are more intellectually rigorous, like honors physics, I know my teachers have my back. In class, Mr. Cousino, my physics teacher, frequently says that he is our Sherpa, and it is his job to get us to the top of the mountain. When I was tripping up the mountain over physics formulas, Mr. Cousino always knew how to put the problem in perspective, make me feel at ease, and get me one step closer to the top. Last spring, before a test on momentum, I went to Mr. Cousino stressed and confused about how to solve the problems. He told me that in the grand scheme of things, memorizing and using formulas for momentum was not going to matter to me. It was the process that he cared about. Mr. Cousino wanted me to learn how I learned. So while I may never use momentum formulas again in my life, I still went home and studied for 2 hours because I wanted to show Mr. Cousino and myself that I understood the process of learning. Having these trusting and caring relationships with your teachers allows you to live in the moment. I've slowly learned that it's not worth letting stress consume you about a game against a rival team at the end of the week or an exam at the end of the trimester. Time is going to keep ticking, and game day and exam day are going to arrive. It's inevitable. I could stand here and tell you not to stress, but I've been there. You will stress, and a little anxiety is good because it means that you care and that you want to do well, but don't let the nerves control you. Take a deep breath and remind yourself that your teachers and coaches have prepared you the best way they know how for that moment. As long as you trust them and trust that the work you put in was enough, you can take a deep breath, relax, and return to the present moment, most likely still a little bit nervous, but not paralyzed by the stress. It's like Mrs. Robichaud always says, you have to trust the process. When you have trust in your teachers and live in the moment, you can find joy in learning at Derryfield. Mrs. Whitmore, Mr. Cousino, and all of the teachers here view learning as a partnership, which makes students feel valued. It is this mutual respect that naturally drives us to try and make our teachers proud. In this environment, where everybody shares this joy of learning, we can have conversations about the Great Gatsby on global trips in the Bahamas, continue classroom debates in the library, and even laugh as we helplessly struggle to solve physics problems together. So give it a chance. If you work hard and develop these trusting and caring bonds with your teachers while at Derryfield, you will be successful. So the question becomes, how successful will you be? Thank you.